That October morning, the wind howled through our creaky New England farmhouse, rattling the windows like a warning I didn't heed. I woke to a bed half empty, the sheets cold where my husband, Tom, should have been. No note. No goodbye. Just the faint scent of his cedar cologne lingering on the pillow we'd shared for 32 years. I stood frozen, staring at his half-open closet, a single shirt dangling like it was caught mid-escape. Was this planned? Did I miss the signs? My heart churned with a bitter ache, betrayal warring with a stubborn hope that whispered, *maybe. He'll come back. Maybe there's more to this, * in our kitchen. I clutched his world's best dad mug, its faded letters a ghost of the man who'd hummed Johnny Cash while flipping pancakes for our kids. Sarah's laugh, bright as summer. And Michael's old baseball glove on the counter, they felt like relics of a life we built, now crumbling. The kids are grown, gone to their own lives, but their handprints linger on the fridge, mocking the silence. Why did he leave? Was it another woman? A secret he couldn't share? Or was it me, something I failed to see? The weight of those questions presses harder than the loneliness. This is my story, raw and unfiltered, of a mother, a wife, a woman unraveling the truth behind a life shattered in a single morning. I found something that day, a locked journal in his desk, its key nowhere in sight. What's inside might break me all over again, but I have to know. If you've ever lost someone you loved, or felt the sting of unanswered questions, walk this path with me. Share your heart in the comments, give this a like if it moves you, and join me as we uncover the truth, one painful step at a time. The wind screamed through our New England farmhouse that October dawn, a banshee clawing at the shutters, warning me of something I was too shattered to hear. I woke to Tom's side of the bed cold, the sheets stiff, untouched, the faint cedar of his cologne lingering like a cruel ghost. 32 years of marriage, vows whispered under summer stars, fights that left us raw, mornings tangled in each other, gone. No note. No goodbye. Just his flannel jacket slung over the couch, its sleeves dangling like they expected him to slip back into them. I stood there, barefoot on the hardwood, my breath hitching, waiting for the sound of his truck crunching gravel. Nothing. The house was a tomb, every creak a reminder of his absence. I stumbled to the kitchen, my feet numb against the worn floorboards, and froze at the sight of his desk. There it was, a locked journal, its leather cover cracked like the promises we'd made. I ran my fingers over it, the lock cold, rusted, heavy with secrets I wasn't sure I wanted. Was this always here, hiding in plain sight? I imagined Tom hunched over it, his broad shoulders tense, guarding something I'd never been allowed to see. My stomach twisted, a mix of dread and betrayal. What had he written in those pages? Confessions? Lies? Or worse, truths I'd ignored? I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and called Sarah, my daughter, praying she'd heard from him. Her voice was sharp, clipped, like she was already done with me. Dad's probably fine, Mom. Let it go. Let it go? Her dismissal sliced deeper. Then the silence, as if she'd already buried him in her heart. I wanted to scream, * he's your father. How can you not care? * but I didn't. I hung up, her words echoing like a slap. Next, I tried Michael, my son. His voicemail answered, and there, buried in the static, was Tom's low chuckle from years ago, a sound that used to mean home. I choked on a sob, the phone slipping from my hand. The mailbox was my next desperate stop, overflowing with bills, junk flyers, and something else, a postcard, its edges worn, Tom's scrawl glaring at me. An address for a motel in Maine, 3 hours north. My pulse hammered. Had he planned this? Was he there, sipping coffee, starting over without me? I clutched the postcard, its paper soft from handling, and felt the world tilt. Why Maine? Why? No words. The questions clawed at me, each one a fresh wound. By dusk, I was back in the kitchen, the journal in my hands, a bent paperclip trembling between my fingers. I'd tried prying the lock, my heart pounding like it might break free. What if the truth inside was worse than his absence? What if it confirmed he'd stopped loving me years ago? The house creaked around me, its walls holding memories of laughter, fights, our kids' tiny footsteps. Now it felt like a cage, trapping me with a man who wasn't here. I wasn't ready to open that journal, but it was all I had left, a lifeline. Or a noose, I couldn't tell. I stood there, frozen, the wind howling outside, whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. The postcard burned a hole in my pocket as I climbed into our old pickup, its engine coughing like it shared my grief. The address, a seedy motel in Maine, was my only lead, a fragile thread in the unraveling tapestry of my life. The highway stretched ahead, gray and endless, mirroring the ache in my chest. I drove with the windows down, the October air biting my skin, trying to outrun the silence Tom left behind. Every mile felt like a betrayal, like I was chasing a man who didn't want to be found. But I couldn't stop. Not yet. Johnny Cash crackled through the radio, his voice dragging up memories of Tom's crooked smile, his off-key hum during late night drives when we were young and stupidly in love. My hands shook on the wheel, the song a knife twisting in my gut. Had he been lying even then, hiding pieces of himself? I turned the radio off, but his ghost stayed, sitting in the passenger seat. Silent. At a gas station, the clerk, a kid with acne and pity in his eyes, stared at my unraveling sweater, my red-rimmed gaze. "You lost, ma'am?" he asked, his voice soft, like he saw the wreck I was. I lied, no, and paid for coffee I wouldn't drink, my hands trembling as I counted change. The motel loomed under a flickering neon vacancy sign, its paint peeling like a bad lie. The clerk, a tired woman with smoker's lines, barely looked up. "Tom?" "Yeah, checked in weeks ago. One night. Gone by morning." Her words landed like punches, no forwarding address, no trace. I begged to see his room, and she shrugged, handing me a key. The room reeked of bleach and regret, the bed unmade, like Tom had left in a hurry. Under it, I found a crumpled receipt, coffee, Marlboros, dated the day he vanished. Tom didn't smoke. Or had he? Had I missed that too, along with whatever else he'd hidden? Back in the truck, the journal sat heavy on the seat, its lock unyielding, a taunt. I remembered Tom writing in it, late at night, his face shadowed. "Shutting me out. Just work stuff," he'd mutter, but his eyes said something else. Now, I wondered what those pages held, excuses, confessions, or a map to the man I thought I knew. The motel had given me nothing but a receipt and more questions, each one a splinter in my heart. Why Marlboros? Why one night? Was he running from me or something worse? I drove home, the highway blurring through tears I didn't bother wiping away. The journal mocked me from the passenger seat, its secrets locked tight. I wanted to scream, to smash it open, but fear held me back. What if it told me he'd never loved me? What if it proved I'd been blind for years? The pickup rattled, the engines hum a faint echo of Tom's voice, promising forever. Forever was a lie, and I was chasing its ghost. The farmhouse waited ahead, dark and silent, ready to swallow me whole. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, knowing I'd keep digging, even if it broke me. Because sometimes, the truth is all you have, even when it's a blade. The farmhouse felt like it was shrinking, its walls closing in as I climbed the attic stairs, chasing Tom's ghost. The air was thick with dust, the kind that settles into your lungs and your regrets. Tom used to hide up here, claiming he needed quiet to think. About what? I'd never asked, too trusting, too naive. Now, every creak of the floorboards felt like an accusation, whispering that I'd missed the signs. The attic was a graveyard of our life, boxes of baby clothes, faded photos, secrets he'd buried where I wouldn't look. I found a box, new, unmarked, tucked behind a broken lamp like it was hiding. My hands shook as I opened it, revealing photos, us at Sarah's graduation, Michael's first baseball game, and then her. A woman, blonde, sharp-eyed, her hand on Tom's arm like she owned him. The photo was dated last summer, when he'd sworn he was working late. My breath stopped, my stomach twisting into knots. Who was she? Why was she smiling at him like that? The image burned into me, a betrayal I could feel in my bones, sharp and cold as a winter knife. Tucked beneath was a letter, Tom scrawled jagged across the page, addressed to L. Words like escape and new start leaped out, each one a punch to the gut. I shoved it back, my fingers trembling, afraid to read more. Was this why he left? For her? The thought made my knees buckle, and I sank to the floor, dust swirling around me like ghosts. The journal waited downstairs, its lock a taunt, daring me to confirm he loved her, not me. I couldn't touch it, not yet. Fear was a chain around my heart.my phone buzzed, Sarah, her voice tight with worry. Mom, you're tearing yourself apart. Stop digging. Stop? This was all I had left, this jagged path to the truth. I snapped, this is my life, Sarah, and hung up, my voice echoing in the attic's silence. Her words stung, but not as much as the photo, that woman's smile slicing through 32 years of trust. Had Tom been lying that whole time? Had our life, our kids, our home, been a stage for his secrets? I sat there, clutching the photo, the attic's shadows pressing in. The woman's face was a mirror of everything I wasn't, young, bold, unburdened. Was she why he left without a word? Or was there something darker, something he couldn't face? The questions clawed at me, each one sharper than the last, drawing blood. I wanted to burn the photo, the letter, the journal, burn it all and pretend he'd never left. But I couldn't. The truth was a hook in my heart, pulling me toward answers I wasn't sure I could survive. The farmhouse groaned below, its walls holding memories I used to cherish. Now they felt like lies, every laugh, every touch tainted by that woman's smile. I was drowning in doubts, in a dust-choked attic that held more of Tom than I ever did. Have you ever held a secret you couldn't face? Share below. I need to know I'm not alone, that someone else has stood in the ruins of their life and kept going. Her face, Lila's, burned behind my eyes, that blonde stranger from the attic photo, her hand on Tom's arm like a claim staked in my heart. I drove to town, the journal locked in the glove box, its weight pulling me under. The New England streets blurred past, all clapboard houses and dying leaves, but all I saw was her smile, too perfect, too knowing. I needed to know who she was, what she meant to Tom, why she'd torn my life apart without ever meeting me. My pulse hammered, a drumbeat of dread and fury. At the library, I hunched over a computer, my fingers clumsy as I searched the motel's address from the postcard. Cross-referencing names, I found her, Lila, a diner worker in a nearby town. Her social media showed that same sharp-eyed confidence, a woman who looked like she could steal a man's soul and serve it with coffee. My chest tightened, jealousy and betrayal twisting into a knot. Was she his escape, his new start? I drove to the diner, the journal's lock rattling in my mind, daring me to face the truth. Inside, the diner smelled of grease and burned dreams. Lila was there, pouring coffee with an ease that made my skin crawl. Her name tag glinted, Lila. My heart sank, heavy as lead. I slid into a booth, ordering coffee to steady my shaking voice. When I asked about Tom, casual but desperate, her eyes flickered, a split second of recognition, then a lie. Don't know him, she said, her smile tight, her fingers twitching on the coffee pot. She was lying, and I hated her for it, for knowing him in ways I didn't. I drove home, her lie a splinter in my mind. The farmhouse loomed, its windows dark, watching me. In the garage, I rummaged through Tom's toolbox, my hands frantic, searching for something, anything, to make sense of this. Taped under a rusty wrench, I found a small key, its edges worn but perfect for the journal's lock. My breath caught. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading and craving. I held the key, my hands frozen, the weight of what it might unlock pressing down on me. Was Lila his lover? His accomplice? Or something worse? Back in the kitchen, I stared at the journal, the key cold in my palm. Lila's face, her lie, mingled with Tom's letter about escape. Had he planned to leave me for her, or was she just a piece of his unraveling? The farmhouse creaked, its silence louder than my thoughts. I wanted to confront Lila again, to shake the truth out of her, but the journal felt like the real enemy now. It held answers I wasn't sure I could survive. What if it confirmed he'd never loved me? What if it broke me all over again? I stood on a cliff's edge, the key a blade in my hand. Lila's lie, Tom's absence, the locked journal, they were threads in a web I was caught in. I couldn't turn back, but moving forward felt like stepping into a void. The truth was close, and it terrified me. I needed to know, even if it destroyed me. Because sometimes, the only way out of pain is through it, and I was already too far gone. The key clicked in the journal's lock, a sound sharp enough to cut through the farmhouse's oppressive silence. Tom's handwriting sprawled across the first page, jagged and urgent, like he'd been bleeding his secrets onto paper. I sat at the kitchen table, the October dark pressing against the windows, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break free. I was terrified, but I read anyway, chasing the man I'd loved for 32 years, even if he was a stranger now. The truth was a blade, and I was already cut. The first entry, dated 6 months ago, hit like a punch. I'm lying to her every day. She deserves the truth. My chest caved in. Was her me? Lila? Someone else? The words blurred through my tears, each one a betrayal. He wrote of debts and promises, a cage he'd built, but not with me. Debts to who? My mind. Spun, grasping at fragments, late nights, hushed calls, Tom's distracted eyes. Had I been blind, or had he hidden it that well? The journal felt alive, mocking me with answers I wasn't ready for. I in the margins, a sketch, our honeymoon lighthouse, its lines shaky but unmistakable. We'd laughed there under starry skies, young and unbreakable. Why draw it now? Was it a memory, a regret, or something darker? My fingers trembled, tracing the ink, as if it could bring him back. The farmhouse creaked, its walls holding our past, kids' laughter, Tom's coffee brewing, now tainted by his secrets. I wanted to scream, to tear the pages apart, but I kept reading, desperate for a piece of him I could still hold. Sarah burst in, her coat dripping from the rain, her eyes wide. Mom, this is killing you, she pleaded, seeing the journal. Her voice cracked, raw with worry, but I snapped, it's my life. She flinched, and guilt stabbed me, but I couldn't stop. This wasn't just about Tom, it was about me, about the years I'd poured into a man who'd vanished. Sarah left, her footsteps heavy, and I was alone again, the journal's weight crushing me. I turned the page, my breath shallow, and found it. Lila knows too much. I have to go. My blood ran cold. What did she know? The words sat there. A confession and a threat. Lila, with her sharp eyes and lying smile, was tangled in this, but how? Was she his lover, his partner in some scheme, or a witness to something worse? The farmhouse felt smaller, its shadows sharper, like they were watching me unravel. I slammed the journal shut, my hands shaking, the key glinting on the table. I was in too deep, drowning in Tom's lies, but turning back wasn't an option. The truth was a hook, pulling me toward a truth that might destroy me. I sat there. The wind howling outside, the journal a ticking bomb. Tom's words were a map to a man I didn't know, and every page cut deeper. I wanted to believe he'd loved me, that this was all a mistake, but doubt was a poison seeping in. What would you do if the truth could shatter your world? Tell me in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one staring into the abyss, chasing a truth that might break me. The lighthouse sketch gnawed at my soul, a jagged memory of Tom's laugh under starry skies, now twisted into something sinister. I drove to the coast, the journal heavy in my bag, its pages a map to a man I no longer knew. The October sky was bruised, heavy with rain, mirroring the weight in my chest. The lighthouse was our place, our honeymoon, our promises, but now it felt like a taunt, a secret Tom had buried in plain sight. I needed to know why it haunted his journal. The lighthouse loomed on the cliff, its paint peeling like old skin. The beacon long dead. The door creaked open, unlocked, exhaling a damp, salty chill. Inside, the air was thick with decay, and Marlboro cigarette butts littered the floor, matching the motel receipt. My stomach lurched. Tom didn't smoke, but someone had been here, leaving traces of a life I didn't understand. I ran my fingers over the rough walls, searching for answers, and found it, a carved L, jagged and fresh. Lila? Or Tom? Leaving a message? My heart pounded, fear and fury colliding. I sank to the floor, the journal open in my lap, its pages whispering of a deal gone wrong, tied to this place. Tom's words were frantic. The lighthouse was a mistake. Too late now. What deal? What mistake? The walls seemed to close in, the carved L staring like an accusation. I called Michael, my voice shaking, desperate for a piece of Tom. He answered, heavy, reluctant. Dad called once, Mom. Said he was sorry. Sounded scared. Scared. Of what? I pressed, but Michael shut down, his silence a wall I couldn't breach. The lighthouse felt alive, its shadows whispering secrets I couldn't decode. I traced the L again, my fingers trembling, wondering if Lila had stood here, her sharp eyes scanning the same walls. Was she part of this, or just another pawn in Tom's game? The journal's weight pulled me back, its pages a maze of half-truths. I read more, each word a cut. I thought I could fix it. I was wrong. Fix what? My mind raced, debts, lies, a life unraveling faster than I could follow. Outside, the wind howled, the ocean crashing below like it wanted to swallow the lighthouse whole. I stood, clutching the journal, my fear growing into something sharp. Urgent. This place wasn't just a memory, it was a clue, a piece of Tom's disappearance I couldn't ignore. But what if it led to something I couldn't survive? The L on the wall, the cigarette butts, Tom's frantic words, they were threads in a web, and I was caught, tangled in a truth I wasn't ready to face. I drove back to the farmhouse, the lighthouse fading in my rear view, but its secrets clung to me. The journal sat heavy on the passenger seat, daring me to keep reading, to keep chasing. I was terrified, but stopping wasn't an option. Tom's absence was a wound, and the lighthouse was salt rubbed deep. I needed answers, even if they broke me. Because sometimes, the only way to survive the truth is to walk straight into it, no matter how much it hurts. I was already bleeding, and there was no going back. I stormed back to the diner, my anger a live wire, drowning out the fear that had kept me quiet too long. Lila was there, wiping tables, her blonde hair catching the greasy light, her smile fading when she saw me. That smile, too perfect, too knowing, had haunted me since the attic photo. I wasn't here for coffee or lies. I wanted the truth, raw and unfiltered, even if it tore me apart. The journal burned in my bag, Tom's words, Lila knows too. Much, a blade in my heart, she saw the fire in my eyes and hesitated, then pulled me outside, the diner's door slamming shut behind us. The alley smelled of stale grease and rain, and Lila's hands shook as she lit a cigarette. Tom was in deep, she said, her voice low, unsteady. Not with me. Bad people, bad money. My breath caught. She wasn't his lover, she was part of something darker, a side job, cash under the table, debts to men who didn't forgive. She handed me a business card, the name Vince scrawled in cheap ink. He's who Tom ran from, she said, her eyes scared, darting like she expected someone to jump out of the shadows. I drove home, Vince's name a poison in my mind. At the farmhouse, I confronted Sarah, the card trembling in my hand. She broke down, tears spilling as she admitted Tom had taken money from her college fund years ago. He swore he'd pay it back, Mom, she sobbed, her voice raw with betrayal. I wanted to hold her, to say it wasn't her fault, but my own anger choked me. Tom had lied to us all, building our life on secrets. The journal confirmed it, its pages screaming, Vince won't wait. I'm out of time. Was he protecting us, or just himself? Lila's confession shifted everything, like a kaleidoscope twisting into a new, uglier pattern. Tom hadn't left me for her, he'd fled something. Worse, something that scared even her. But what? The farmhouse felt colder, its walls closing in, every creak a reminder of the life we'd lost. I sat at the kitchen table, the journal open, Vince's card beside it. Tom's words were a plea, I thought I could outrun it. Outrun what? Debts? Danger? Or the truth he couldn't face? My heart raced, fear and fury tangled together, pulling me toward a truth I wasn't sure I could survive. I wanted to burn the journal, to erase Lila's scared eyes, Sarah's tears, the name Vince. But I couldn't. The truth was a hook. Sunk deep, and pulling back would only tear me apart. I stared at the card, its edges worn, like it had been carried too long. Lila's cigarette, Sarah's sobs, Tom's frantic scrawl, they were pieces of a puzzle, and I was the one left to solve it. The farmhouse groaned, its shadows deeper now, hiding more than memories. I was in too deep, but stopping wasn't an option. Not when Tom's lies were all I had left. I stood, the card in my hand, Vince's name a challenge I couldn't ignore. Lila's truth had cracked open my world, but it wasn't enough. I needed more, even if it destroyed me. Because sometimes, the only way to survive betrayal is to chase it to the end, no matter how much it bleeds you dry. Vince's name was a curse, a venom seeping through the journal's frantic pages, Tom's words a plea for forgiveness I wasn't ready to grant. I drove to his pawn shop, a squat building in a part of town where hope went to die. The October air was sharp, cutting through my thin coat, but my fear and fury burned hotter. The journal's final entry, if I'm gone, tell her I loved her always, sat heavy in my mind, a lifeline or a lie, I couldn't tell. I needed to face Vince, to see the man who'd driven Tom away. The shop reeked of cheap cologne and desperation, shelves cluttered with other people's broken dreams. Vince was behind the counter, all charm, his smile slick as oil, but his eyes were cold, predatory, sizing me up like prey. I showed him Tom's photo, my hand steady despite the tremor in my chest. He laughed, a sound that grated like gravel. Your man owed me big, he said, leaning closer. Skipped town. Bad call. His smirk was a blade, cutting through the fragile hope I'd clung to. Was Tom running from this man, or from me? At home, I rummaged through Tom's toolbox again, my fingers brushing a hidden burner phone taped under a pile of screws. It had one number, Vince's. My hands shook as I dialed, my heart pounding like it might burst. Vince answered, his voice a snarl, mistaking me for someone else. "Where's my money?" he snapped, and I hung up, my breath ragged. The phone felt like a bomb, proof of Tom's double life. Had he called Vince from this, begging for time? The thought made my stomach churn. The journal's last page haunted me, Tom's words a confession: "If I'm gone, tell her I loved her always." Tears burned my eyes, blurring the ink. Did he mean it, or was it another lie to keep me tethered? Vince's smirk, his cold eyes, lingered like a bruise. He was the key to Tom's disappearance, but every step toward him felt like walking into a trap. The farmhouse creaked around me, its shadows deeper, hiding truths I wasn't sure I could face. I wanted to believe Tom's love was real, but doubt was a poison, spreading fast. I sat at the kitchen table, the burner phone beside the journal, both heavy with secrets. Vince's voice echoed in my head, a threat wrapped in that oily charm. Tom had owed him thousands, but why? What had he done to cross a man like that? The questions were a noose, tightening with every breath. I wanted to run, to burn the phone, the journal, the pain, but I couldn't. The truth was all I had, even if it was a blade aimed at my heart. The farmhouse felt like a cage, its walls holding memories now tainted by Vince's smirk, Tom's lies. I was chasing a ghost, and every step pulled me deeper into a darkness I didn't understand. But stopping wasn't an option, not when Tom's words, his love, his betrayal, were all I had left. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, knowing I was closer to answers than ever. And closer to losing everything. Because sometimes, the truth isn't freedom, it's a trap you walk into willingly, eyes wide open, heart already broken. The farmhouse was a prison, its shadows sharp as knives, every corner hiding a lie. I read Tom's journal cover to cover, each page a fresh cut, his words unraveling the man I thought I knew. The October night pressed against the windows, cold and unyielding, like the truth I couldn't escape. Tom's secrets were a maze, and I was lost in it, my heart splintering with every revelation. The journal was done, but I wasn't. I was on the edge of everything, and the fall was coming. Tom wrote of a loan shark deal, a desperate grab for cash to save our home. He'd never told me, never hinted at the weight he carried. Our savings, gone, funneled to Vince, but it wasn't enough. The bank statement I found hidden in his desk confirmed it, the numbers of betrayal colder than his absence. I sat there, the paper trembling in my hands, realizing how much he'd hidden. Had I been that blind, or had he been that good at lying? The question burned, a wound that wouldn't close. Michael stormed in, his face twisted with fury. Dad swore he'd fix it, Mom. He lied to us all. His voice broke, and we held each other, our anger and grief a shared ache. His pain mirrored mine, but his words cut deeper. He trusted Tom too, and now we were both broken. I called Lila, my voice shaking. She admitted helping Tom hide cash, thinking it would save him. I didn't know, she whispered, her voice small, scared. I wanted to hate her, but her regret felt too real, too close to my OWN.AT. Midnight, the burner phone rang, its shrill tone slicing through the silence. Vince's voice was a growl, "Stop digging, or you're next." I dropped the phone, terror choking me, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. He knew I was close, knew I was unraveling Tom's secrets. The farmhouse creaked, its walls closing in, every shadow a threat. I wanted to run, to hide, but Tom's journal, Lila's confession, Michael's tears, they were chains, binding me to this truth that I was losing myself, the woman I'd been, wife, mother, slipping away in the face of Tom's lies. The journals. Final words echoed, "Tell her I loved her always." I wanted to believe it, but love felt like a lie now, tainted by debts and danger. Vince's threat hung over me, a storm waiting to break. I sat at the kitchen table, the phone and journal. Before me, relics of a life I didn't understand. I was at the breaking point, but stopping wasn't an option, not when Tom's love, his betrayal, were all I had left. The farmhouse was a cage, its shadows alive with secrets. I was on the edge, staring into a void of truth and pain. Every step forward felt like a step toward destruction, but I couldn't turn back. The journal, the phone, Vince's voice, they were pieces of a puzzle I had to solve, even if it cost me everything. Because sometimes, the only way to survive betrayal is to face it head on, to let it cut you until there's nothing left to lose. I was already bleeding, and the truth was all that remained. The lighthouse called me back, its shadow looming in my dreams, the burner phone heavy in my coat, Vince's threat a drumbeat in my skull. I drove through the October night, the journal's weight pulling me toward answers I wasn't sure I could survive. The coast was wild, the ocean crashing like it wanted to swallow me whole. I needed closure, even if it broke me. The lighthouse wasn't just a memory, it was the end of Tom's trail, and I was done running from the truth. Inside, the air was thick with salt and decay, the darkness alive with secrets. A figure stood in the shadows, Tom, alive, gaunt, his eyes hollowed by fear. My heart stopped, the world tilting. He wasn't a ghost, but he wasn't the man I'd loved either. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice cracking. He confessed. The debt was to protect us, to save our home, but it spiraled. He left to draw Vince away, to keep us safe. His words were a lifeline, but they couldn't erase the pain of his silence. I screamed, 32 years of love and betrayal spilling out. Why didn't you trust me? My voice broke, raw, echoing in the lighthouse's hollow shell. He had no answer, just tears, his hands trembling as they reached for mine. I wanted to pull away, to hate him, but his touch was a memory of everything we'd been. Vince's men were closing in, he said, their footsteps heavy in the distance. We could run, hide, but I was done with shadows. I chose to fight. I called Sarah and Michael, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. "I love you." "Always," I said, their voices soft, breaking through the phone. I hung up, turning to Tom, his face etched with regret. "We face this together," I said, taking his hand, the lighthouse trembling around us. The wind howled, the ocean roaring, but I felt a strange calm. Love didn't erase pain, it was a scar, a strength, a reason to stand tall against whatever came. Vince's men were close, their shadows flickering outside, but I wasn't afraid anymore. Tom's hand in mine was a tether, not to the man who'd lied, but to the life we'd built, flawed and fractured. The lighthouse stood firm, its walls holding our past, our pain, our truth. I was ready to face the storm, to fight for answers. For closure, for the woman I'd become. Because sometimes, love is a battle, and you fight even when you're bleeding. The wind screamed, but I was louder, my heart a fire that wouldn't go out. This was my truth, raw and jagged. Love doesn't fix everything, but it's worth standing for, even when it hurts. If this story tore at your heart, if you've ever faced a truth that broke you, hit that like button. Share your pain in the comments. I read every word, every story, because they remind me I'm not alone. Subscribe to walk this road with me, to chase the truths that matter, no matter how much they cut. Let's face our storms together, hand in hand, until the light breaks through.